So, what does it really take to win a campaign? I mean, whether we're talking about student body president or, something much bigger, is it just about having integrity, the best ideas, a really clean platform?
I'd like to think so.
Or, and let's be honest here, is the real secret just knowing how to cut the right deals, how to manage the right egos, and really speak the language of political transaction?
Well, that tension you just described, that's it. That's the core of what we're looking at today. It's that gap between what we say we value in politics and, well, what actually gets results.
And we found this perfect little microcosm to explore it.
We really did. It's a short but really sharp dialogue between two students, Nicole and Ted. And they're basically negotiating the terms of an election. It's high-stakes maneuvering in miniature.
So our sources for this deep dive give us the whole blueprint. We have the actual dialogue, the negotiation itself.
Right.
And then we also have this extensive linguistic toolkit. It's like a detailed glossary of all the specific English idioms and phrases they're using to make these moves.
So our mission here is really to dissect everything. The ambition, the personal grudges, and that classic transactional moment.
The you scratch my back moment.
Exactly. And this whole thing is designed to give you, our listener, a kind of shortcut to understanding these really complex social dynamics just by looking at specific language.
The stakes here, I mean, even though it's a school election, they feel really high, at least for one of them.
Oh, for Nicole, absolutely. She sees this as preparation for a much, much bigger stage. This student body presidency, it's not the end goal for her. It's a stepping stone.
She's already looking ahead, isn't she?
She is. She's thinking about becoming a senator one day. And Ted holds the keys to this crucial voting block that she needs. And that makes him, all of a sudden, completely indispensable to her future.
So we're basically watching a political strategist being born. Someone who has to learn that ambition needs leverage. And sometimes that leverage comes from the people you'd least expect. Okay, let's get into it. Let's unpack this political apprenticeship, starting with Nicole's just incredibly blunt ambition.
Yeah, Nicole wastes absolutely no time. Her opening line isn't about, student activities or cafeteria food. It's about her career.
Not at all.
She just says, I've decided to run for student body president. If I'm going to become a senator one day, I should get some experience under my belt now.
And that phrasing, it's just so revealing, isn't it? It completely strips the election of any idealism.
Right.
That phrase, to get or to have under one's belt, it just perfectly frames the whole thing as a strategic necessity, not like a civic duty.
So what does it mean exactly?
It means to have or to acquire experience. But it's usually experience that serves as a credential, a foundation for something bigger and better down the line. It's an idiom that's less about enjoying the moment and more about accumulating assets.
It's like you're collecting things for your resume. It's not just about doing the work. It's about having these tangible, verifiable things you can point to later. Exactly. And the sources give us some really good examples that show just how professional this phrase is. Think about Kristen, the lawyer. It says she had 3 years working for a big law firm under her belt. And only then did she feel, qualified enough to go start her own practice.
So that experience wasn't just helpful, it was like the prerequisite. It's what gave her the license to take that big risk.
It's the foundation. Without those 3 years under her belt, she's just another ambitious law grad. With it, she's a business owner.
Okay, that makes sense.
And we see the same thing with the academic example. Ernie, he needed to get an MBA under his belt to get the high-level corporate job he wanted. The MBA was his stamp of approval.
So when Nicole uses this phrase about a high school election, she's signaling just how seriously she's taking her own political career.
She really is. She's treating this presidency like a professional certification. It's a line item on her future CV, a mandatory step to get to her real goal of being a senator.
It's fascinating that the sources equate a student election with something like 3 years at a law firm or an MBA. It tells you everything about her mindset.
It's not about the students. It's about the resume.
It's the difference between running because you care about, say, prom themes, and running because you need to demonstrate future competence to a party committee 10 years from now.
And that kind of strategic focus means she's always thinking a few moves ahead. But, every political dream has to face reality.
And Ted is her reality check.
He is. He immediately brings up her main competition, Andrea Jenkins. He warns Nicole that Andrea will give her a run for her money.
Ah, that's such a classic phrase. We all know what that means. It's the universal sign for this won't be easy.
Exactly. It means you might still win, but your opponent is going to make you work for it. They're going to make the whole contest draining physically, mentally, whatever. You're going to have to spend some real resources, time, money, effort just to get that victory.
They're not just going to lie down and let you win. They make it a real fight.
And that's in the examples, too. The soccer team, they lost the tournament, but they could still say they gave the other team, Stanford High, a run for their money.
So the outcome was a loss, but the narrative is about the effort.
Right. It changes the story from a total defeat to a respectable challenge. They made the winners work for it.
And it works for individuals, too, right? The example about Tina, the tennis player. She doesn't always win.
But she always gives the speaker a run for their money. It means you have to bring your A game. You can't just phone it in against her.
So Ted is basically telling Nicole, don't get complacent. Andrea is a serious contender who can push you to your limits.
And this is where the conversation turns. It shifts from, friendly strategic advice into a real conflict.
Because Nicole, who's already acting like a senator, just completely dismisses the threat.
Completely. She calls Andrea an idiot, and then she says, I'm by far the better candidate.
And that's the ego wall. It's a massive strategic blind spot. And Ted sees it immediately.
He does. He pushes back right away. He says, don't be so full of yourself. He even threatens to vote for Andrea.
He sees that her confidence is tipping over into plain arrogance.
And that's what to be full of oneself means. It's a fantastic idiom for describing someone who just thinks way too much of themselves. Their confidence has gone past the point of being helpful and is now actually working against them.
It suggests a kind of narcissism where you can't see reality clearly or, treat your allies with any respect.
And the examples show that it pushes people away, whether the arrogance is deserved or not.
Right. Look at Angela. She was on the cover of Vogue. That's a real accomplishment.
A huge accomplishment. But afterwards, she was suddenly full of herself. Her new status changed how she acted, and it alienated people.
Then you have Mitch, who just thinks he's really great for no specific reason.
And he's also so full of himself. It just shows whether your ego is based on a real achievement or just pure delusion, the social result is the same.
Annoyance. Alienation.
And for Nicole, it's a political vulnerability. It gives an opponent like Ted leverage. Her arrogance is limiting her ability to make a deal.
Yeah, that arrogance is the one thing she can't afford right now if she wants Ted's help. But let's stay on that phrase she used for a second. By far. She says she's the better candidate by far. That just doubles down on the very ego problem Ted calls her out on.
It's such a potent phrase, by far. It's an adverbial phrase that just means by a wide margin, by a great difference. It's absolute. It removes any doubt.
When she uses it, she's saying the difference between her and Andrea isn't just like a little bit. It's a giant chasm.
It's an overwhelming difference. It's a move to declare total dominance.
Like when someone says Tom Hanks is by far the best actor, they're not saying he's slightly better than his peers.
No, they're saying he's in a league of his own. It's a decisive, overwhelming superiority.
Or the restaurant example. If Mediterranean Grill is by far the best restaurant in town, that justifies why it's so hard to get a table. The quality gap is just that big.
It's the linguistic way of saying it's no contest.
And what I find so interesting is that the sources point out all these powerful synonyms you can use for this.
Right, if you want to communicate that same idea of absolute superiority.
You can say by a long shot, far and away, or hands down.
And they all pretty much mean the same thing, but there are some, subtle differences in tone. By a long shot feels like it's emphasizing the distance, the gap.
The competition isn't even close.
Exactly. Far and away can sound a little more literary or formal, maybe, but hands down, that feels the most immediate, the most definitive.
Yeah, hands down feels very final. Like you could win with your hands down. The outcome is never in doubt.
So when Nicole uses by far, she's telling us she sees her competition as totally irrelevant. And that's a huge political mistake that Ted, the savvy negotiator, spots immediately.
She thinks she's hands down the best choice, but that's blinding her to the political compromise she now has to make.
And Ted has just successfully punctured that bubble of arrogance. He's made her ready for the next stage, an actual negotiation.
Okay, so the conversation pivots right here. It goes from Nicole's ego to the actual practical problem of getting votes. She says, stop kidding around. Let's get down to business. I need your help. But Ted, he knows he has the upper hand now. He's skeptical.
And this is where the political price becomes very personal. because Ted represents this voting bloc that Nicole has until this very moment completely ignored, actively shunned even.
And he calls her out on it. He points out the social barriers she's built, and he uses these two incredible idioms back to back.
He does. He says, "But you never give my friends the time of day. All you give them is the cold shoulder."
Wow, that 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
Time of day and cold shoulder. It really captures the two different degrees of social exclusion, doesn't it?
It really does. They both come from her sense of superiority, but they describe different levels of disdain.
Okay, let's look at the first one, the milder one. Not even paying attention.
Right. To not give someone the time of day. It means to completely ignore someone, to refuse to pay them any attention at all. It suggests they're just beneath your notice, too insignificant to even acknowledge.
It's like their time isn't worth your time.
Exactly. And that first example from the source material is perfect. It's about Sandra, who never gave the speaker the time of day back in college.
Or presumably when the speaker was, less important.
Mm-hmm. But now she calls the speaker all the time for advice. Her current need has forced her to finally acknowledge someone she once treated as invisible. It's a great example of how power dynamics can shift.
And the second one reinforces that same idea of, professional insignificance. If your stockbroker is so busy, she barely gives you the time of day.
It's a clear sign you're not a priority. Your account's too small. And that's how Nicole has been treating Ted's friends, the very people whose votes she now desperately needs. She's signaling that they don't even register on her political radar.
And that leads us to the second, more active, and I'd say more malicious, form of disdain.
Giving someone the cold shoulder?
Yeah.
Because not giving someone the time of day can almost be passive. You might genuinely be too busy. But giving someone the cold shoulder is deliberate. It's intentional.
It's a conscious decision to snub them, to be cold to them on purpose.
It's a premeditated act of dismissal. Like in the example with Lisa and Amber at the mall, Lisa didn't just happen to not see Amber. She saw her, and she actively chose not to even stop and talk. She gave her the cold shoulder.
So there's a reason behind it. A grudge, maybe,
Yeah.
a previous slight. It's an active choice to walk past.
And that intentionality is so key. We see it in the synonym the source provides, to blow someone off. Amber can't figure out why Lisa blew her off.
So when Nicole snubbed Ted's friends, they didn't just feel invisible. They felt actively rejected.
Precisely. And what's Nicole's reason for all this? She admits it. It's pure social bias. She said that's because they've got blue hair and nose rings.
She's just admitting that her entire political exclusion of this group is based on how they look. And Ted sees that as a massive political weakness.
Of course. And so he takes offense, and he throws the criticism right back at her. It's a classic counterattack.
He argues his friends are actually better than her friends, who he calls a bunch of goody-goodies and brown-nosers.
And now we're deep in the language of high school politics, which honestly translates perfectly to the language used in, Washington, D.C. or any corporate office.
Let's start with goody-goody. What is that exactly?
A goody-goody is someone who is, self-righteously good or smugly good. Their good behavior isn't quiet, it's a performance. They project their goodness in a way that's kind of irritating, usually to gain favor.
They're virtue signalers.
That's a great way to put it. Think of the examples. The goody-goodies sitting in the front row, smiling at the teacher. It's a performance of diligence.
Or Samantha, who's a real goody-goody because she always offers to erase the blackboard.
Right. It's a helpful act, technically, but it's perceived by everyone else as being designed to make her look good in front of the authority figure, and that makes them really annoying to their peers.
And the synonyms are great, too. A goody two-shoes, which is a bit of a classic. Or, more specifically, a teacher's pet. And that's never a compliment. It implies your success is based on sucking up, not on actual merit.
And that idea of sucking up brings us to the even stronger term Ted uses, brown-noser.
Which is pretty direct.
It's very direct. It's slang for someone who is constantly trying to win favor with people above them. Teachers, bosses, whoever, usually through just excessive flattery or servile behavior. The image it creates is crude, but, you immediately get the idea.
The examples really paint a picture. Lauren is a brown-noser because she's always telling her teacher how much she loves the class.
It's so transparent, an unsolicited compliment just to get on the good side of power. Or Dennis, bringing the boss lunch. That is the classic move of someone hoping a small favor will pay off with a promotion later.
The key thing here is how judgmental the idiom is. When you call someone a brown-noser, you're not just describing what they did, you're assigning a motive to it, a lack of integrity.
We've all seen a dentist bring the boss lunch, and you immediately think, okay, what's his angle? The label itself politicizes the act.
And the source also points out the verb form, which is useful. You can also say to brown nose.
Right. Dennis is always brown-nosing the boss. But, and this is important, the source also notes that it doesn't always work. He still might not get the promotion.
So the action is separate from the result. But the label, that sticks.
And Ted's argument here is that Nicole surrounds herself with these brown-nosers, these political loyalists who only tell her what she wants to hear. But the real victory depends on her managing this external marginalized group that he represents.
So, in the end, transactional politics will always trump social loyalty when an election is on the line.
That's the core insight. Nicole, the future senator, needs the votes of the people she scorns. Her prejudice is a political liability.
But, and this is a sign of her political skill, she doesn't get bogged down in the argument. She cuts it short. She says that's beside the point.
It's a crucial move. She's basically saying, your opinion of my friends and my opinion of your friends is irrelevant to the deal we need to make right now. She's dragging the negotiation out of the personal mud and back to the political marketplace.
She realizes she can lose the social argument as long as she wins the political deal.
And to do that, she needs to move past the insults and, as she said before, get down to business.
And that's her next strategic move. Initiating that shift back to being practical, to get down to business.
It's an idiom that means, okay, stop the small talk, stop the arguments, stop the ego trips. It's time to get serious about the task at hand. It signals a real shift in tone from, just talking to actually doing.
Yeah, usually implies that time's been wasted, the discussion has gone off track, and now we need to focus. We see that in the examples. The book club. They spend 2 hours just eating and drinking before finally getting down to business to discuss the actual book. The idiom really highlights that delay.
And you can contrast that wasted time with the urgency in the second example. Our dinner guests are arriving in 2 hours. We'd better get down to business and start preparing.
So it works both for refocusing after a distraction and for starting something under a time crunch.
And for Nicole, she's facing a deadline, the election. She has to secure this alliance now.
And Ted, seeing her urgency, he doesn't waste any time stating his price. He lays out the fundamental formula of cooperation. He says it so simply. You scratch my back and I'll scratch yours.
It's probably the single most definitive idiom for this kind of reciprocal transactional deal in the English language.
Yeah.
It just means if you do something for me, I will gladly do something for you in return. It's an agreement based on pure barter and mutual self-interest. There's no friendship here.
It applies to everything, doesn't it? From doing chores at home to, international diplomacy.
Yeah.
The examples show how simple it is.
They do. I'll help you with your homework if you do the dishes. You scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. The effort you spend has to be worth the benefit you get.
Or the second one. If I drive you into the city, will you pick up my dry cleaning? You scratch my back and I'll scratch yours.
It's a calculated exchange of services. And Nicole, the aspiring senator, has just entered into this kind of raw political barter with the voter she used to snub. The idiom instantly defines their new relationship. It is based on mutual need and nothing else.
So what are the specific terms of this deal?
Well, Ted's favor, the big one, is that he will help Nicole talk his friends into voting for her.
And that phrase, to talk into, it's about persuasion, right? Convincing someone to do something they probably don't want to do.
Exactly. It means you have to overcome their resistance either through argument or influence or just social pressure.
And this is a huge lift for Ted. He can't just ask his friends. He has to actively persuade them to vote for the person who deliberately gave them the cold shoulder.
He has to spend some serious political capital with his own people to do this for her.
The examples really show the range of this kind of persuasion, from life-changing stuff to, well, trivial things.
On the extreme end, you have Chris. He clearly did not want to jump out of the plane, but Aaron successfully talked him into it. That's some serious persuasion.
And on the much lighter end, someone trying to talk the speaker into going to a dance club instead of a party. But in both cases, the goal is the same. Change someone's mind, override their preference.
And for Nicole, Ted has to convince his friends, who were rejected based on their looks, to now vote for the person who rejected them.
And what's the price Nicole has to pay for this incredible act of persuasion?
Ted's chemistry homework.
Votes for grades, a classic student government transaction.
It is, and Nicole admits she is not crazy about the idea. But the political reality just overrides her personal feelings. She agrees. It's a deal.
Okay, that phrase, to be not crazy about. It's a gentle way of saying you don't like something, isn't it? She finds it distasteful, but not, impossible.
It shows her internal resistance. She doesn't want to do homework for this guy she used to look down on, but she knows she has to.
And then it's a deal. That's the magic phrase that seals it. It formalizes the agreement. It turns the negotiation into a binding contract.
It's the verbal signature. We see it in the examples too. You'll make dinner for a month if I help you with homework. Okay, it's a deal. The terms are accepted. The deal is locked.
Or, if you rake the leaves, I'll do the dishes. It's a deal. It's that exact moment the transaction is finalized.
And with the deal struck, Nicole voices her final concern, which really gets at the vulnerability of any political agreement that isn't, written down. She says she hopes she can count on someone.
To count on someone. That means to depend on them, to rely on them. It's all about trust and reliability.
It's the trust clause. After all the ego and the insults, Nicole needs to know that Ted will actually deliver.
The examples show this can be emotional or practical. You can count on your funny brother to cheer you up. That's an emotional dependency.
Right, or you can count on someone to wake you up so you don't set an alarm. That's a practical dependency. You're delegating a task because you trust them.
And Nicole needs to trust that Ted's desire to get his homework done is stronger than any lingering desire to see her fail.
It's that moment where the political math ends and the sort of human factor begins. Can she trust the very person she tried to marginalize?
And, we have to go back to that one phrase that really set the tone for all of this serious negotiation. Just before she said, let's get down to business. When Ted was threatening to vote for Andrea, Nicole told him to stop kidding around.
It's a great idiom to touch on because it's what flips the switch from banter to business.
So to kid around just means to joke, to tease. And it can be totally harmless, like the example of Jeremy, who loves to kid around, so you shouldn't take him seriously.
Right, it's just playful. But it can also have negative consequences by accident, like Tim poking Rob in the eye while they were kidding around.
The intent is to be unserious. But the really powerful version of this, which the source points out, is the negative form, not kidding around.
And when you say you are not kidding around, you are signaling that something is extremely serious. The stakes are no longer a joke.
So Nicole is telling Ted that his threat isn't just a bargaining chip anymore. This is a moment for absolute seriousness.
And the example nails it. The White House is not kidding around with airport security. When a serious institution stops kidding around, you know the situation has become critical.
So Nicole's use of that phrase confirms it for us. For her, this isn't just a high school election. This is a serious political campaign, and it deserves serious, high-stakes, transactional language. So this deep dive into what seems like a simple student election has really given us this massive practical shortcut into the language of power and leverage and social maneuvering.
It really has. We've seen how Nicole's path to her future, her senatorial success, it relies so much less on her being by far the best candidate.
Right.
And so much more on her ability to make these pragmatic short-term deals and, swallow her own biases.
We watched her have to navigate this minefield of social perception. She had to deal with the direct consequences of giving the cold shoulder to the very people whose help she now needs.
She had to swallow her pride about her own friends, the so-called goody-goodies and brown-nosers, and admit that Ted's friends were no longer beside the point.
The pure transactional politics forced her to just abandon her social judgments.
It did. And to get that victory, she had to use a very precise transactional language. She had to get down to business and then formalize the whole thing with that undeniable principle.
You scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. And now you, the listener, have a much stronger grasp of all these terms for flattery, for competition, for formal agreement. They exist everywhere, in every office, in every political arena.
And these idioms, they really function as these crucial social and strategic shortcuts. Just imagine trying to explain the idea of a reciprocal political favor without that phrase, you scratch my back.
It would take a whole paragraph.
It would. It saves so much time, and it immediately conveys the mutual, conditional, and frankly unemotional nature of the deal. Knowing this language is just essential for decoding all those interactions where the real motives are hidden under polite conversation.
And the whole thing, the entire deal, it really hinges on that final, fragile expression of trust.
I hope I can count on you.
Which leaves us with a final, provocative thought for you to consider, based on everything we've looked at today. Nicole started this whole conversation by refusing to even acknowledge Ted's friends. The people she wrote off as insignificant because of how they looked.
Right. And now, for her to win, she has to rely on Ted to successfully talk them into voting for her. So the question is this: does true political success, even at the highest levels, does it require you to genuinely compromise your social biases, to change your mind about who matters?
Or is it just about learning the language of cooperation you need to manipulate those biases, all in service of a much bigger, a much more personal goal?
That's the messy place where integrity and ambition collide. We'll leave you to think about that one as you watch the deals being struck all around you.